Former President Donald Trump, along with two of his closest allies, Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, may be walking straight into an international legal trap that could fundamentally shatter their lives and the foundation of U.S. politics. The warning, issued by a conservative legal expert, is simple. They might want to cancel every international vacation they have planned, because the body that prosecutes dictators and war criminals, the International Criminal Court, or ICC, is now targeting them. This isn't a political witch hunt by Democrats or a special prosecutor. This is the ICC in The Hague, the most powerful judicial body on earth when it comes to crimes against humanity. If the allegations prove true, international arrest warrants could be quietly issued. Warrants that no amount of political power, money, or Secret Service protection can easily dismiss. It's an escalating global political storm that has turned into an all-out war between American exceptionalism and global justice. This is how it started, and why it's about to explode. To understand the danger, you have to know the history of this bitter feud. The ICC was established in 2002, a global court in the Netherlands created to prosecute the worst crimes imaginable: genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The ultimate global backstop where national systems fail. But from the start, the United States refused to sign on. Why? Because Washington feared what eventually happened, that one day the court would dare to turn its eye toward American military operations around the globe. When Donald Trump came to power, that tension didn't ease. It exploded. Trump didn't see the ICC as a guardian of justice. He saw it as an existential threat to U.S. sovereignty. In his eyes, it was an enemy. So when the court began investigating allegations of potential U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan, Trump retaliated with an unprecedented act. He imposed sanctions on ICC judges and officials, freezing their assets and banning them from the country. No U.S. president had ever gone that far. He called the entire organization illegitimate and politically motivated. It was a Cold War that Trump made hot. Fast forward to this year, and the conflict has reignited on a much larger scale. The catalyst was the ICC's move to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister. Trump immediately leapt to Netanyahu's defense, calling the ICC's actions disgraceful and an attack on America's greatest ally. But this wasn't just defense. It was an opportunity. Trump escalated his own campaign by announcing new sanctions on ICC officials. And this time, it wasn't just a presidential order. Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio both publicly backed the move, with Rubio going so far as to label the ICC an instrument of lawfare, a weaponized court system attacking the United States and Israel. They put themselves in the fight. They just didn't realize they might be walking into a snare. The tension reached its boiling point with actions taken under the guise of the war on narcotics. Reports quietly emerged that the Trump administration had authorized bombing raids on boats originating from Venezuela. The official claim was simple: these boats were carrying drugs. The reality is far darker. The attacks reportedly killed everyone on board, sparking outrage from human rights groups. But here is the critical catch, the detail that makes this a legal nightmare. No concrete evidence was ever presented to prove those boats were actually drug carriers. No due process, no accountability, just deadly force on an unproven target. Now for the bombshell. Conservative law professor Eugene Karovich from George Mason University, not an anti-Trump activist, issued a grave and chilling warning. He argued that Trump's actions in Venezuela could amount to war crimes. Specifically, he drew a direct parallel to the case of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, who was indicted by the ICC earlier this year for ordering extrajudicial killings of suspected drug traffickers. Karovich's point is stark. Bombing alleged drug boats without evidence or due process mirrors Duterte's deadly tactics. But the danger isn't just for Trump. Karovich emphasized that Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio could also face charges, and their situation is even more precarious. The ICC doesn't just go after heads of state. It prosecutes anyone who enables or authorizes crimes against humanity: defense ministers, generals, and policymakers. Hegseth and Rubio were directly involved in those military decisions, and unlike a former president, they do not have the protective shield of U.S. Secret Service protection. They are exposed. Here is where the legal reality becomes absolutely terrifying. The ICC is notorious for issuing sealed indictments. This means an individual can be officially charged with war crimes without a public announcement, without a warning, and without any notice given to them or their government. There is no official press conference. There is no knock on the door. The first time someone realizes they are wanted by The Hague is often when it is already too late. Picture this high-stakes scenario. Rubio or Hegseth decides to take a peaceful, private trip, a vacation, a business meeting, anything, to Europe, Africa, or even a country in South America that is a member of the ICC. They step off the plane in a foreign airport. Their passport is scanned, and within minutes, they are surrounded by local police who are legally obligated to execute the sealed arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. The world's highest court has deemed them a war criminal, and they are now in a prison in a foreign nation. They might never come home. The ultimate legal ambush. For now, the ICC has not officially announced any warrants publicly. But given their pattern of secrecy and the growing list of accusations, it is entirely possible that legal proceedings are already quietly underway. This legal shadow hanging over Trump's circle is far bigger than just international law. It's about global perception and America's soul. For decades, the U.S. has operated as if it were untouchable, shielded by its power and its exceptional status. But the world is changing. The global community is no longer willing to ignore abuses just because they come from a powerful nation. The fundamental question is one of hypocrisy. If the U.S. claims to stand for democracy, justice, and human rights, can it continue to shield its leaders from accountability when they break those very principles abroad? If Trump and his officials are truly guilty of ordering attacks without evidence, that's not a foreign policy mistake. That's potentially a crime against humanity. And the ICC has a duty to investigate, regardless of political consequences. The irony is devastating. The same laws America helped write after World War II to punish war criminals now threaten to boomerang back on its own leaders. If the ICC decides to move forward, it would mark the first time in history that U.S. officials were targeted for war crimes prosecution. It would be a precedent that echoes for decades. The Trump ICC showdown is far from over. As the investigations deepen and the pressure mounts, the next few months could redefine not just Trump's legacy, but America's moral standing in the world. The tension between global justice and American power has reached a boiling point, and for some in Trump's inner circle, a foreign trip is now a gamble with a maximum security prison. Do you think the ICC will move forward? Let me know in the comments below.